All right, welcome to anybody that's joining or anybody that's going to see this later. My name's Coach Cody. I'm here to assist you today with some low back stretches. So a lot of us tend to have low back pain for a number of reasons: pinched nerve, back injury, sitting down all day, you name it. Probably even also standing all day, high impact, whatever it is. And everybody gets low back pain at some point in their life. So whether if you're a young athlete or maybe a person that's just, been working for mass majority of their life being on their feet, you're eventually going to run into some pain in your low back. Now typically what you'll see a lot of folks get low back pain in the lumbar spine. So you have three sections of your spine. You have your lumbar, you have your thoracic, and you have your cervical spine. Now, we can go later down the line, that'll be another live, into neck issues, but we're specifically going to talk about the lumbar and also a little bit around the thoracic spine. So the lumbar spine is where most of your nerves cross over and innervate the lower half of your body. So a lot of times if people have a pinched nerve, sciatica is what they'll typically have, which is an impingement of the sciatic nerve, and then pretty much cutting off the innervation into the leg down to the foot. So you'll feel like a shooting pain or referring pain or just like a tingliness. And then also sometimes people lose a lot of circulation in their legs. So they're not getting full circulation throughout their whole circulatory system because the nerves are impinged and compromised. So today we're going to be using a couple tools just so you guys can see what we have here. Now keep in mind, what I'm showing here today, you can purchase your own online. I'm not sponsoring any of these products. These are just products that I personally use and I use with my clients. But you can always use household things around the house. For example, a broomstick. All right. Now, what we're going to be using here is a mobility stick. All right. So the mobility stick, it gives a little bit. So it has a little bit of a give. It's made out of a special material. I don't know what kind of material it's made out of, but it does give a little bit. But like I said, you can always use maybe a PVC pipe. You can go to Home Depot, get some PVC piping. It's not as durable. Or just a broomstick, all right? Now, some of this stuff that I am going to show you, I would not recommend using a fixed object, right? I'll suggest what you should specifically be doing with a fixed stick, such as a broomstick, but not everything. So we tend to have a lot of shortening on the lateral side of our low back, right? So typically this is where a lot of us get pain. It's usually because you have a muscle here called your psoas, right? I'll show you what the psoas looks like. Alright, taking you guys to class. Now the psoas is right in here, right? So if you look at it, it connects onto the lumbar and it connects into the pelvis down to the femur. It's one of the few muscles that actually crosses over the body. So it's a difficult muscle to stretch, also to massage. Not a lot of massage therapists know how to get into the psoas, and also a lot of stretches can't really get into the psoas. Most of the stretches that we do for the front portion of our leg, for our quadriceps, usually just get the quadriceps, and it's very difficult to get the psoas. The psoas also connects or is part of another muscle called your iliacus, which is pretty much, it also connects down into the pelvis. And again, it is, these are deep muscles. So it's very, very difficult to get into these muscles. But with the help of the mobility stick, we can then release some of these areas, as well as not even just the muscles, but just the fascia lining, just the movement because we're constantly in this short state, so we want to elongate everything, and we're kind of retraining the nervous system to elongate on one side and not be short on one side and long on the other. So we're going to cover both sides. So with the mobility stick, you simply just get the stick to the side of you, you place your hand on top, and then you push and you release. Right now, there's two things going on. As I'm pushing, I'm extending my hip, and now I can feel the stretch. Now, when you're stretching, whenever you're stretching, you'll want to kind of be very, very present in your body and feel exactly where the tension is coming from. So the first thing you want to do is focus on your breathing, right? So obviously I'm talking to you, but if you were really, really in tune with yourself, you will be focusing on your breathing. You'll feel exactly where that stretch is happening now. Now in this stretch in particular, I can move around my body a little bit, and then it will change the direction of the fibers, right? It will change the direction in which how the fibers are being stretched. I can also kind of move and look under, and that will change. And then I would eventually bring my arm in. So I recommend when you do this stretch in particular, if you happen to get the mobility stick, 30 seconds up to 60 seconds is a good time for you to stretch out the low back in that area, right? And then obviously you want to even it out. Now we call this the bow and arrow stretch. The folks at mobility stick, they call this the bow and arrow stretch. So it's a very, very famous stretch. And again, I'm going to show how to do this without the stick, or with maybe a solid stick. So obviously do not do this with the broomstick, it will break. Cool, so this targets the lateral side of the low back, aka psoas, iliacus, your transverse abdominis, the whole nine. You got everything going on this side. So if you had, if this was a broomstick, if this could not bend, what you would do is hold this above the head. Right? We've seen this before. We've seen these stretches before. Right? Same thing. You will place the stick, but lean into it. So the stick is straight and you lean into it. Right? Now, make sure that you have something that can, maybe against a wall or so, and then you would use that. So same thing. So if you notice, I'm moving away from the stick, because if I stay close, it'll break, right? If it was a solid broomstick. But being that I'm moving away, I'm just using the leverage of my body in the stick. All right. Again, keeping it real simple. You got your arms. Same thing. Now the difference is here is that with the stick is something like you can lean on the stick a little bit. You can lean on it, and obviously that makes it very different than doing these type of stretches. Cool, so that's the lateral component for the low back that I just want to leave you guys with today. Another simple one, we've all seen this one before, basic hip flexor stretch, right? So I'm just using a pad here. You can use a pillow, you can use a mat, you can use whatever you have available to you. And pretty much you get into this position here. You got that engaged in this glute. So the key here is when you get into this position, you want to engage this glute, and you just want to slightly shift the body forward to where you start to feel that stretch in your quad, right? So this, you're going to feel from the base of the hip all the way down, maybe also towards the knee. And we're just simply going to, let me show it to you guys from this angle. We're simply just going to take our hand and push into the knee and open up. Again, hold it for about 15, 30 seconds. If you've got the patience, you can go up to 60 seconds, that's fine as well. And again, same thing on the side. Now keep in mind, I'm showing you guys very, very, very basic stretches. These are very, very basic stretches. These are very preliminary stretches for anybody out there that's having some very low back pain. There's tons of stuff out there, but these are very, very preliminary. Okay, another basic one, since we're on the ground, is our basic child's pose. So child's pose, we're going to get the knees in this position here. We're going to get on hands below the shoulders here. So you pretty much you're on all fours, and you're just going to sit back, Stretch those arms all the way out. And when you're in the child's pose position, focus on taking deep breaths into your stomach. Then we're going to get the hands off to the side. Again, taking some deep breaths. This also gets the lateral all the way down into the lower half of the back here. You're also going to be getting your lats in here, which is part of sometimes having some low back pain. We can go back into the middle. Yes, because the lats is a big internal rotator. If your shoulders internally rotate, it screws up the whole postural lining of your body, and that's what causes even more back pain. Right? So poor posture leads to poor back pain. All right, last but not least, because I'm going to only leave you guys with this. Again, you could use the mobility stick. I'm going to use the mobility stick. If you guys get a chance to purchase this online, this is great to have in the house. Again, a broomstick, or if you don't have any stick, you could just do this without it. I'm going to be using a stretch table. You guys can use maybe your bed. That's the highest thing I can think of, but it's typically, the bed is probably the best thing that you can do. We're going to stretch out the glutes. So, pretty much going to get our leg up onto the table. Get the bottom foot straight. So the bottom foot should be pointed straight. The top leg should be 90 degrees. 90 degrees, bottom foot straight. Now, what we're doing here is, I'll show it to you guys from this direction, because I want to make sure you guys can see this. Sorry about that. Spine is nice and straight here. So we want to be nice and straight. And the goal is to lean and hinge from your hips. So eventually, once I start to loosen up my glute, I'm going to extend my foot back. I'm extending my foot back. Now, what I use the stick for, so keep in mind, this is what you'll be doing without the stick. Just like this. Loosening up the glutes would eventually loosen up the low back. The stick now gives me the ability to play with other stretches. So for example, if I'm in this position, I can lean forward more. This is a deeper stretch in that glute. I can also rotate, and now rotate from my thoracic spine, my mid-back. And when I'm rotating, now I'm feeling some extra stretching in my psoas, muscles around the abdominal area, everything. Everything in this hip and off this side of the body into the rib cage, I'm feeling a stretch. Right? Now again, you challenge it over time by extending the back, and then of course doing this on both sides so you stay balanced. So, you know, sometimes, and also take audit of your body. So when you're stretching, always feel like which side is tighter, which side is a little looser, and take audit of it. Does not mean that you stretch only the tighter side. It just means that you just know your body. You know which side is tighter, you know which side is a little looser. So these are some really, really very specific, sophisticated stretches for the low back, glutes, and really gets you primed and ready for anything really. So if you're doing weightlifting, if you're playing basketball, football, boxing, whatever sport it is, these stretches are universal. And again, there's a lot more to unpack, but I'm gonna just leave you guys with this today. Stay tuned, I'll be doing more lives. Follow my FIT-NOMICS Studios page. This is where I'll be doing most of my lives. I'm also going to be dropping a YouTube page soon on more stuff like this, more tips and advice around coaching, stretching, strength training, etc. So just tune in, guys. Also follow the Global Wellness page for our virtual community walk that we do every day at 9 a.m. West Coast time and 12 p.m. East Coast time. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for anybody that's going to check this out later. It's been a blessing.